What if the shoe doesn't fit when we try to put ourselves in someone else's shoes? Everyone's fighting some silent battle. Today on rLounge, it's important for us to be kind. Always. Am I the a-hole for pressing charges on a former friend for shaving my head in my sleep? For context, a relative of what used to be a close friend of mine, whom we'll call Gary for this story, contracted cancer. I, mid-20s male, was sympathetic and even contributed $100 to a donation pool for their treatment. But Gary came to me one day and took his hat off to reveal a freshly shaven head. He told me that everyone in his family was doing it in support of his relative, and so were a lot of our mutual friends. Then he asked that I get on the bandwagon. I told him I didn't want to shave my head because I like my hair. My hair is black, regularly combed and well styled. He said I could just get a wig or something and had actually brought his shaver kit. He was unboxing it when I told him this was not happening. I didn't even really know his relative that he's doing this for. So I'm not doing it. End of discussion. He called me an a-hole and left angry. We didn't speak for a week. Then last Saturday I got invited to a party at another close friend's house. There I found out that Gary had tried the same thing on several other friends, and only a couple of them actually did shave their heads. Gary wasn't at the party, so I had a blast hanging out, playing video games and listening to rock music. But I had way too much to drink and couldn't drive home. So they said I could just sleep upstairs. I passed out on a bed and it was a blissful sleep, till I was shaken awake by another friend who told me Gary had showed up late and they caught him shaving my head while I was passed out. I saw what I looked like in a mirror and wanted to scream like I was in a horror movie. Gary even shaved off one of my eyebrows. Gary was still there and acting proud of himself, saying, "Now you're gonna have to shave off the rest just like me, haha." I was furious and called the cops. When they got there, Gary fully admitted to what he had done to me and even said he was justified. The police didn't seem to think so, as this is classified as a form of assault. They asked me if I wanted to press charges, and the first words out of my mouth were, "Hell yes." Gary cussed me out while they took him away in cuffs. I tried getting my hair restyled into something presentable, but there was no saving it now, and now I'm bald too. Now a bunch of Gary's family are telling me to drop the charges because Gary was off his meds and didn't mean to do it. I was like, what the F? Because I never knew he was on meds, but I still refuse to drop the charges. It'll take months to grow my hair back the way it was, but all the calls and messages from Gary's relatives are starting to get to me. Just about everyone else in our friend group has cut Gary out though and say that I'm doing the right thing by not dropping the charges. So now I'm divided. Am I the a-hole for pressing charges on a former friend for shaving my head in my sleep? Edit. I want to make something clear here. So many people have said things like, "Dude, it's just hair." But would they all be saying that if I wasn't a man? What if I was some girl that had hair that took years to grow? Would they be saying the same thing? Sure, hair grows back, but it takes time. If it was something that grew back fast, people would be less inclined to care. But it's not fast. It takes months. And for some who had long hair, years. That's a lot of time wasted growing. And I don't plan on pushing for Gary to go to prison, but I don't plan to drop the charges either. His family already bailed him out, and while I didn't know he was on meds, I knew he had quite the temper, and even an entitled attitude at times. One example being a lunch where he wanted us all to combine the check and split it evenly. He got the most expensive thing on the menu. I got a cheeseburger. When we all said no, Gary went off on us for not being good friends. He's always been a jerk when he doesn't get his way, and I've only known him for like 3 years. This incident was the last straw for not just me, but a lot of other mutual friends. As for the charges, I don't want to send Gary to prison, but I would like him to get some therapy and community service. With the way Gary has acted around me in the past and what he did to me, I actually wonder how long before he'd get more violent. I've seen and heard of him getting in fights for less. Edit 2. I've gotten many comments from people saying, "You're the a-hole, he has cancer." If you actually read what I posted, Gary is not the one with cancer. A relative of his I don't know does. And no, I don't know what kind of cancer. Gary didn't elaborate. He wanted me to shave my head for this person, and when I refused, he left in a tantrum, then shaved off my head while I was passed out drunk at a party. Let's go to the community for some of the judgments. First one from a deleted account. Not the a-hole. Contact the DA that is handling the case and let him know that his family is pressuring you to drop the charges. They may be violating the law too. If Gary hasn't learned to take his meds, a little time in jail will teach him that lesson. Edit. I didn't mean to suggest jail will help him. I believe facing negative consequences for his actions versus getting out of them will help him. Next vote from Mummy Ansem. Not the a-hole. Tell the family you're going to report them for harassment if they keep this up, and then follow through. Gecko TA Girl says, not the a-hole. I'm so over people shaving their heads for their friends and relatives who have cancer when the patient isn't even involved in it and often doesn't want them to. Absolutely press those charges. This will teach Gary to stay on his meds, and unfortunately losing most of his friends will hopefully cement that lesson. I'm sorry that happened to you. O'Malley the Alley Cat chimes in next. I had an uncle die from cancer at 40, and we were there when his hair was falling out in clumps, and he threw it out the car window and it blew back into his face, and he laughed so hard he almost had an asthma attack. And we bought him the shaver so he could shave it off so it wasn't clumpy. My mom drove him to his doctor's appointments. We went to visit him after his surgery, and Mom fought Centrelink when they didn't want to give him the disability pension. When my dad had cancer, I made him high-fat smoothies to stop him losing weight, and I cleaned his vomit out of the sink. Shaving your head doesn't help someone with cancer. With kids, it might make them feel safe because they can relate to someone, but realistically, people with cancer don't need you to shave your head. They need you to help with the everyday practicalities, because you might shave your head, but after that one act of solidarity, you're gone. They need rides to chemo. They need help cleaning the house and doing the laundry. They need someone to walk the dog and carry groceries and cook. Things that are actually effing useful. Grand gestures don't help. It's small things that do. Edit. Thank you for the awards. If you want to set up a meal train for someone you know who's undergoing treatment for cancer, recovering from surgery, has just given birth, etc., there's a website dedicated to it. Also, always wear sunscreen. There's a lot of facts being spilled in these comments, OP. Shaving your head isn't the only way to show support for someone who has cancer. And shaving your head or not, you shouldn't feel forced to do something you don't want to do. You had donated to the cause, and you were supporting in your own way. That certainly doesn't make you the a-hole. Sounds like Gary has some things he has to work through, other than his relative's cancer diagnosis. An update to Gary shaving my head in my sleep. A friend of mine just showed me a video yesterday in which my old post had been read. Honestly, I'd nearly forgotten about it since I was only there to ask if I was the a-hole or not. And since I don't want to go through the pain of trying to do an update on Am I the A-hole, I thought I'd just do it here since Entitled spells out Gary pretty well. Other than the shaving incident, he tried to get us to partially pay for his food multiple times by combining the check and dividing it equally when he always got the most expensive thing on the menu. And once he even pulled the "I forgot my wallet" bit. He was described as a neckbeard by multiple people, including women he flirted with. He tried to get a married neighbor woman that was older than him to have an affair with her, and then later egged her apartment door when she refused. That one I only learned about a couple of months after my original post. And no, Gary never saw consequences for doing that. I also learned he stole several video games and DVDs from friends, mooched food and drink out of their fridges, and even went through a period as a squatter for 2 months by refusing to leave a house he'd been let into by a former tenant, and the landlord actually paid him to leave. Gary's also an extreme hypocrite that contradicted himself more than a corrupt politician. To recap, someone, a former friend of mine named Gary, is related to got cancer, and Gary went around trying to get our friend group to all shave their heads. He only got a couple of them to agree, and even brought his shaving kit to my apartment because he just assumed I'd join in as well, and was already unboxing it before he even got the chance to say anything. I told him the shaving was not happening. Well, he decided to make an example of me and waited till I was good and passed out from drinking at a friend's party. I was so dead to the world that I had to be shaken awake by a friend after Gary got caught shaving my head. He took off one of my eyebrows and messed up my hair beyond saving, and he was laughing his butt off over to having done it. So yes, the rest had to come off. I ended up pressing charges on Gary for assault and found out he's been on meds for a mental disorder for years. And he'd stopped taking the meds, which is one of the reasons he was so loopy. But his tune changed pretty quick when police arrested him, since what he'd done qualifies as assault. Gary's family harassed me and tried to make me drop the charges. I not only didn't drop the charges, but I reported the harassment to the police. Only problem is, it didn't bloody stop. In fact, it got worse. Mainly from Gary's mother, whom I can see where Gary got his charming personality from. She showed up at my apartment a couple of weeks after the shaving incident to scream at me that I knew nothing about what they were going through, and a little hair wasn't a big deal. I told her my hair was a big deal to me, and what Gary did was inexcusable. Well, that earned me a slap on the face, followed by a swift kick to the nuts, followed by a few more kicks to my body after I went down. It was all recorded by a camera that I had watching the front door. Landlord wouldn't let me put on a Ring doorbell cam. One of my neighbors saw her and screamed at her they'd be calling the police. Gary's mom ran, and I ended up going to the hospital with minor injuries, mostly just bruises, a black eye, and a sore groin. Gary's mother got arrested, and I filed a lawsuit against her for attacking me. I saw her in court twice for both her assault on me and the lawsuit I filed for her assault. This woman had taken several self-defense classes over the years, so she knew how to fight. That had the judge consider her a trained individual, and she was sentenced to 6 months in jail, given 2 years probation, and ordered to pay my medical bills. She actually cried to the judge about the money, but he wasn't having it. It took some time to see her in court again for my lawsuit against her, as she was out of jail by then. I was awarded $10,000 for the harassment, emotional damages, and lost work hours, and she had to pay all court and lawyer fees, which she cried about again because she didn't want to pay anything to the man who'd ruined her and her son's lives. But she had the money for both court cases because she had no problem paying. But around that time, I heard Gary's relative with cancer passed away. I don't know any details, just that they passed on. I admit that was sad, but I never knew this person. But Gary made their condition his hill to die on when he tried to make an example out of me. Gary got some probation and community service for what he did to my hair, and he cut contact with our entire friend group and eventually moved away. Where to? I don't know. I don't care either. As for my hair, well, it grew back just fine. Took nearly half a year to get it back to how it was. My boss had me put out of sight for a while, and I was wearing a hat everywhere for at least a month. I did take that $10,000 I got in the lawsuit and combined it with my savings for a down payment on a house. So, I've since moved into a much better abode. I also have a girlfriend now that's living with me. It was a bit soon for her to move in, but there were extenuating circumstances. We're making it work though, and I'm happy. Now for some community comments. Walker Strange chimes in, "Dang, what a dick family and friend. No one is entitled to one's desire to shave their head. I mean, I get it's a supportive gesture and all, but even if a member of my family got cancer, besides hoping for them to get better and try to visit in the hospital, I wouldn't shave my head either." Silent Joe 1986 says, "I love how they tried him being off his medication as an excuse. It isn't an excuse because he was on his medication when he decided to stop taking them. He was still accountable for his actions. Glad it worked for you." There's no doubt that we can never fully understand what Gary and his family was going through without being Gary or a member of his family. But that isn't an excuse to behave the way that they did. Of course, it's almost important to practice empathy and mindfulness. But that goes both ways. What do you think? And thank you for joining us today on rLounge. Before you go, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you have something you want to say regarding today's content, share that with us in the comments below.